Gonna say, yeah.
So they raised.
Good afternoon, David. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. Just making sure you can hear us okay?
I sure can, thank you.
Thank you. I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Started, and hopefully Bernadette will be able to join us. So, let's open up the agenda for today. Thank you everyone for attending. This is our third meeting of the City Manager Search Committee. I'm Melinda Bowker, so, Chair of the committee for the moment. Oh, wow. Hold on. All right, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I have that it's 101. I'll use military time. See if you guys, if you can assist us with the roll call.
Absolutely. Dan Lindblade,
Here.
Bernadette Norris Weeks. Mary Pelican. Ron Perkins,
Present.
Earl Prisley.
Here.
Roosevelt Walters,
Here.
and Chair Bowker.
Great. So we have everyone here. Thank you so much for coming and for allowing us to do this additional meeting. I know that we wanted to specifically finalize the brochure with respect to the committee, find out what, changes have been made. I think there's a few other comments from city staff. But to go on to following our agenda, we are now gonna look at approval of the draft minutes from our meeting on September 12, 2024.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we accept the minutes with or without correction.
Fantastic. That's all encompassing. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. I had very minor little typo things, corrections that have already been sent to Jerome. So all in favor of approving the minutes for September 12th, if you could raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Right, so motion passes, minutes are approved. So next on the agenda, we are getting back to Ashley, who got delayed. This had to be rescheduled from last month. Ashley, as Director of Strategic Communications, I know we have the communication plan, the draft public survey, and you also talking about the city manager recruitment website. And thank you all for sharing that in advance with us. So yeah, we'll give you the floor.
Sure, thank you. So the communications plan that you have in front of you is basically every avenue that we have available to us to help push this out. We've done it a few times previously with reimagining City Hall and a couple of other initiatives. This just lays out exactly the different channels that we have available to us, the dedicated webpage, which is there, the online survey, news posts to the city website, social media, email distribution, flyers, media outreach, the mayor and commissioner newsletters, asking our community stakeholders, additional organizations that we work with on a regular basis, perhaps the chamber, the DDA, any other organizations, Riverwalk, those kinds of places that can help us get the word out. And then we can also include a blurb on the water bill insert, whether you get them digitally or printed. There is on the back side of your water bill. Actually, I believe it's the front side of the water bill. Your bill is on the back side of the page. And it gives you events and anything that's happening in the city. And you can also include that with the link to go to the survey or to the dedicated webpage so that people can find out where we are in the process, the timeline, everything like that. So
Can that be a QR code?
I don't know that we can, I can ask. I don't know that we can print the QR code on the back of the water bill. We haven't done in the past, but we have included the link, but I can check.
I guess for the electronic one.
If you're getting it electronically, and I don't know the numbers for printed digital, a lot of people have opted to get them just in their email. And if you're getting it in your email, you can click on the link.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. I'm assuming the search firm is looking at doing the outreach to the Florida League of Municipal.
Yes, this is, my portion of it is just keeping the public informed of the process. So keeping our residents informed of where we are, how they can participate, how they can let their voices be included in the process. My portion does not include recruitment of potential candidates.
I see.
Right.
Is this page live right now?
The page is live. It has not been promoted, so nobody knows that it's there, other than this group. We would start the promotion of it after we get the blessing from you.
And so in a sense, Ashley, you're really assisting us with our mission and part of our responsibility, which is to be engaged with the public and getting feedback from the public. So that's really this is essentially to achieve that goal, but that is also part of our mission. Roosevelt.
I just wanna ask, is there anything on here that you haven't used before?
No, actually, and you know from the Reimagining City Hall outreach that there was actually 11 points on that plan. This is the exact same with the exception of the one portion that is missing is direct mail to the residents. We did have a budget for direct mail. We did postcards letting people know about the series of meetings and public meetings that we were having on the Reimagining City Hall. We have not included direct mail in this outreach. But if that was something that you all wanted to do, we could design postcards. We just have to identify the funding source for sending that out because postage is the main concern there, but.
And so the previous direct mailer went to all Fort Lauderdale households?
Just one other thing. Did we discuss at our last meeting whether we're gonna have in-reach and outreach committee itself?
I don't believe so. What do you mean by that?
Okay. The outreach, as by definition, is that we go in the community and we say to the community, we're gonna be in your neighborhood and we are gonna be discussing this issue. Would you please come? In-reach is we go to their meeting because they already have an audience that we don't have to search for one. So do we plan to do that? And if so, how?
So I guess my thoughts on, and you're right, that did come up in our first meeting. about how we fulfill, because I think Dan was, asking a question about how do we fulfill our mission to make sure that the community is involved in this process and to get their input. And I remember it was actually you, Roosevelt, that mentioned that, the reimagining city hall meetings in person on various weekends with the 4 districts. It's a different kind of, thing that we're looking at here as opposed to kind of models of buildings or charrettes. And I got the feeling from the first meeting that we thought, and also from yourself, that the website and the survey would be potentially the most effective way to do the outreach. And I think that as far as actually attending any specific meeting, community, in reach, as you describe it, is not something that we discussed.
Okay.
Bernadette.
Yeah, just my second question was, I wanted to know whether we were, and this kind of, maybe it sort of goes along the same lines. There was a city manager process that happened years ago, and I think it's when Lee Feldman was interviewing. And the community came, it was out on the lawn of the city hall, and residents came and they met. And gets feedback after that, but that may be something that we could consider. I don't know whether to go into the neighborhood associations and things like that, but certainly I think it would be appropriate. That's part of our process, and I don't know when we talked about that earlier. I'm not sure if I missed that in the first meeting, but.
Yeah, I think that was, so we talked a bit about like this outreach and I guess, Bernadette, as you recall, this in-person outreach meeting occurred prior to the selection.
It was, yeah, it was
Okay.
prior to the selection, and it was built into the search process, and it allowed the residents to come in and give feedback and meet the respective managers, and they were all there.
They met the prospect.
I think there may have been maybe 3 people that had been shortlisted at that time. It could have been 3 or 5, I'm not sure, but it was a shortlisted candidates. And the community came and neighborhood presidents and at the time I was actually a neighborhood president. I invited several of my residents from the neighborhood came and we walked around and met the candidates and we talked about what we thought. And then the following meeting, if we were to build that into this process, maybe people who have a bill that they want to voice support or opposition or whatever, they could possibly come to a community meeting, come to a meeting that we have if they want to. But at least they know that there is a forum.
Right.
We're doing some outreach.
Thanks for sharing
Because-
this. I didn't realize that they had done that.
Yeah, because that's the only way that I see what is happening here to be relevant to, I think it's great that they know there's a process taking place, that's fine, but how do they engage in the process? That's
Right.
more meaningful.
Beyond the survey,
Right,
we do have the survey.
Okay.
Yeah. And the survey I thought was good. And I know, and she's actually gonna go over the survey. I'm wondering, we can talk about this a little more, but it might be more relevant to continue this outreach conversation after we go through the survey. Sure. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we still on the webpage?
Yes, so I think, well, I guess we're still on communication plan. And I think that maybe let's go back to talking about outreach.
We can go through all of it and then we can talk about it. It's all connected, so we can talk about any portion of it afterwards if you want to, or you can stop me at any point. As far as the survey is concerned, this is, you have a paper copy of what is the digital survey on the website. And you'll see that it basically gives the person an option of telling us, do you live and work in the city of Fort Lauderdale? And if yes, then it takes you to the next question. If no, then thank you for your willingness to participate, but we're looking for people who live in Fort Lauderdale to get their answers. And I did not prepare the survey. I mean, if Jerome and Kristen want to go through the questions, and how they were selected. This also included our structural innovation team, which typically does create surveys and has worked with a lot of different organizations to make sure that they're getting statistically valid information from people when we do surveys like this. So we're trying to identify demographic information to make sure, yes, you live in the city, what area of town you live in, so that we know, are we getting information from a lot of people who live in a certain district? Are we not getting enough information from people who live in a certain district so that we can do more outreach in those areas and make sure that we're actually getting the whole city feedback? How long have you lived here? Those are just good things for us to know. How satisfied you are living here, and then what's important to you. These next questions have to do with what's important to you for the city manager. And then the final question is open-ended, and there's a text box where they can include any information that they feel is important that we did not ask on the survey.
Yes, Earl.
I think this is great, to begin with. I like the demographics in the beginning. I'm wondering if maybe, I'm just talking about the districts. I'm not sure everybody knows their district, yes, everybody does, but if they don't, I wonder if we should just list the neighborhoods next to it. So that you could see yours, and then you could pick it.
Good map.
No, that's, I think it would be helpful, if we get through the depth of their knowledge without doing that, because when you start dealing with neighborhood within a district, some of these districts got 8 and 9 neighborhoods in it, depending on how you define neighborhood.
But if you don't know your district, how do you answer the question?
Well,
All right, well, let's skip that.
okay.
So, but the other ones, I gotta be honest with you, the 5, 6, and 7, I don't know what we're really gonna get on.
Well, I wanna go back to one of the things, what you said, because I'm wondering, I would kind of be interested in that, because I would wanna know how neighborhoods are being weighted in terms of, are we getting 100 people to respond from District 3 and 20 people to respond from District 1? I don't,
But
I
you would
would-
get that if you do it by district.
well, no, well, you may, but I would be more interested to know what more outreach, if we have 20 people responding and 100 in another area, well, do we need to do more outreach to that area to figure out what type of support this neighborhood or this district feels that they may need? I think it would be instructive. I think it would be informative. I would personally like to know that, but I mean, I'm
By
hearing-
district, by neighborhood,
But no, not by neighborhood, by district.
by district, yes,
Yeah, by
oh,
district.
absolutely.
But my point was just, if people don't know what district they're in, which is the commissioner. But I was just suggesting is maybe after district, you listed the neighborhoods that are in there.
Oh.
Otherwise,
Or have a map.
otherwise.
They have a city map.
I don't know.
You do know where they live.
Well, could you do a hyperlink to
Map.
a map?
Here,
I'm only just thinking about District 4, which has 20 neighborhoods, so
see,
it's a lot
That's the
to
problem.
list, so
That's the
maybe
problem.
we could utilize a hyperlink.
Yeah, I could make a suggestion. So we do have on our city website, the GIS option where you type in your address and it tells you what district you're in, all that kind of stuff. I can add a link for people to look it up if they don't know. However, the one thing I worry about is taking people out of the survey, and then they don't go back to it afterwards. So the other option I could do is, if the answer is I don't know my district, ask them to put in the neighborhood that they live in, and at least that way we'll be able to
Yes.
collect that data.
And this is for business owners too, right? So they can put in their business address.
And the other thing is, then when we are talking about hyperlinks and all the thing, but my great grandmother don't know how to use a computer. That's the problem. We're gonna miss the elderly. Now, I can use a computer, I know how to turn it on, I know how to turn it off, But when I get beyond that, I'm pretty much lost.
No, you're not.
I call my 3-year-old having to come, I'm serious. And so I don't wanna miss a whole lot of folk because they don't know how to use a computer. So is there something that we can do? Maybe on some of the mail outs or something, we can have this same survey attached so that they get the water bill, if it's not part of the water bill, but attached to the water bill, so that, and then if you tell them to mail it in, that's another problem.
Right. The way that we have done it in the past, for those who have asked for paper surveys, is we have printed them and distributed them via the district commissioner whenever they go to speak with different
That's a good idea.
community associations, and then they collect those back and then bring them back to us. Because asking the resident to fill it out and then mail it back is not an effective way to get it back. They usually don't do that. So we've printed them, copies of them. The district commissioner would distribute them, and then the neighborhoods would pass them out to anyone who, you know, might not be computer savvy, and then they collect them and give them back to us.
Collect them at the end of the meeting and then to you. How does that sound, Roosevelt?
In District 3, it went well. The problem we had with it was that over the, I think it was 3 months, about 3 months, the survey was out there. And the people that.
You're talking about the Reimagining City Hall
Yes.
survey? Okay.
Yes, and the people who came to the meeting were pretty much the same people at each of the 3 meetings.
Right.
So you got a few, but we want to reach as many as possible, and we're not gonna reach them all. And we know that we're gonna lose a few. We just have to minimize that the best that we can.
Yeah.
Am I making sense?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that, I guess my feeling, if you agree, Ashley, is I feel like the most effective way to get to the people for the survey who are not computer savvy is your suggestion on getting printed copies for the commissioner.
I do.
And that we could also have PDF available on our landing page. For like if neighborhood presidents want to also print it out and distribute it, or we could distribute it at a council membership meeting. That seems to be a way that perhaps we can capture that demographic that, like you say, like some people are not using computers. I guess I'm just curious, actually with the Reimagining City Hall survey, how many respondents did you get, and was there a skewing per district?
I will have to check with, so we did the outreach, but I did not collect the surveys for that. I will have to check with our Office of Management and Budget that ran that, but I can check on that and get back to you.
Okay, that's fine. Bernadette?
Yeah, one other good place is, the mayor has the upcoming State of the City
Yeah,
address.
on Monday.
And maybe we can have these, assuming this is approved, we can have it printed out and available there.
I can do that.
But
Yeah.
wasn't it canceled?
No.
It's rescheduled.
Well, I meant rescheduled, that's the better word. So-
Monday, please join us. It might be-
Scheduled to-
Monday, War Memorial, 5
Okay.
p.m.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll, that might be a good opportunity, Ashley, to do that. And I think in that setting, I don't know if you would actually, who would be in charge of maybe having a table or passing it out?
We, our neighbor support team has offered their assistance to us on Monday. So I could have, not only could I have printed copies that they can hand out to people and collect them, but we could also probably have them with iPads out there and just in real time get some results from people taking the survey if you all agree today to.
Great idea.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And then perhaps also too, and I just am a fan of QR codes for a lot of people. So if we could put the survey on a QR code on on paper there.
Sure.
A lot of people will just, I think, revert to that, or even like if you put that, if there's some kind of a little stand on the table with QR code, just piece of paper, I think that might be a great idea. Yeah, definitely a great idea.
Madam Chair, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the meeting. I have a death in my family. So if I get up and leave, it's not because I hate you guys. It's just
Sorry to
important
hear that,
business,
Phil. Great.
important business came up, yeah.
Okay, no, I'm sorry to hear that. Of course, we understand.
But death is in it. We all gotta, we all gotta go through it. So, I'm never sad about that. I'm always glad that we have. That's the way I feel about it.
Our condolences, Roosevelt. So we understand, and I think I also do like Earl's point, but I feel Ashley's idea to address it, which I like the idea of if you don't know, you put in your address and it will tell you so that like we don't have, I don't like not at the top where, so that we don't distract people from completing the survey. It'll just be a link for the donors. And an optional link.
So you wanna include the link to find out what district you're in?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, yeah.
could it just be a pop-up picture? So it doesn't take you anywhere, but isn't there like a district map that kind of just maybe pops up? You can't see it. Once you go, like you say, to another website and, you know, it kind of goes on a rabbit hole.
Oh, right, so
Just
you're
a
saying
district
just kind of
pop-up.
show the show the district map so that people can
Yeah.
get like a general
Get it,
reference.
So just
Yeah,
a
we can do
pop-up
that
picture. So that's what that could be, is pop-up picture.
Just a pop-up map.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Agreed. Okay, so I think we've been able to address the concern on question 2. I think great comments and great suggestion, Bernadette, on having neighbor support, hard copies at the mayor's state of the city address, which is the 14th on Monday. I think reception 5 to 7, and then the actual address starts at 7 o'clock. Any other comments on the specific survey questions for Ashley or HR? Yes.
Quick question. So, on the dedication page in the online survey, so the last line is we can also provide a bios of the final candidates, and then the second one is thoughts and preferences regarding the candidates. Is that specifically about the candidates, or is that just what we want the candidates to be? Are we ever getting to a point where the survey is about the actual specific shortlisted people or about the persons? Do you see my point where it says here, the bios of the final candidates?
So this webpage is intended to be updated as the process goes along. So if you scroll down here, you see the timeline on the right side. We can add different benchmarks as soon as, I think last time you looked at a potential timeline for when the selection process would really begin. We can add different dates on there so that everyone knows where we are in the process, what our benchmarks are to be. You know, at some point you're hoping to have a joint meeting with the city commission, or there are interviews happening. Those dates could go on the webpage as well. Even farther down, it'll have additional, we'll put the survey, a copy of the brochure here, any kind of documentation that we want the public to have access to, we can post it there. And as you continue through the process, if you have a final selection of, 2 or 3 or 4 candidates, and you would like for us to add that to the webpage so that everyone in the community is able to look at that before those interviews happen, or even as the interviews are happening, we can add that as well. That was my thought of putting this together, was that it's a fluid process. So rather than expecting people to watch the entire meeting on YouTube or read the minutes of the meetings later, if we update the web page throughout the process with where you are and what decisions have been made and what happens next, then they can just go to that one location to find out where that's all happening.
So you do the survey, then you can follow along as we get to a short list or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it looks great, and I just think, like you said, it's kind of it's like a living page will keep
Exactly.
changing. I was just thinking maybe with regards to some of the more basic things that are on it now, since not a lot, well, a lot has happened, obviously a lot of work, but maybe if we can just where possible, where you're like listing the city manager search committee date, is there a way that we can provide like a hyperlink to the minutes or and also to the video of our meetings that is on YouTube? So just so that it's the total spot for to get to find out everything that we've been doing, minutes, source materials, if it can just be all encompassing.
And just as a thought, I'm wondering if there's a place we can put some photographs that take place in the various areas. I mean, obviously, the pictures that you have depict, our area and where our economic, sources are, but I'm wondering if maybe, pictures of neighborhood events or pictures of things that happen throughout the city that show the diversity of the area.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's. Okay, oh, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, but I think we need to talk about that this is probably a page that not only the community is gonna be looking at, but potential candidates. Because they're gonna be scouring it too, so I'm thinking, and if I was a citizen out there, which I am, and I wasn't on the search committee, I wanna know more about this search firm. And who's our partner, and so, and then also a link that would go from there to the search firm, what they're posting. I think that's important.
Great suggestion.
Yeah.
Committee, any more comments on the specific question? From the survey? I thought they were good questions, and I like there's open-ended aspects to it, especially question 8.
I've got one question for you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Dan.
What are we gonna do with all this?
Well, I think that we need to consider the residents' responses when we're thinking about, when we're interviewing the candidates and making a short
I hope so,
list.
because, I've filled out enough surveys in my life that I know that I don't know where to go.
Yeah, sometimes nothing.
Yeah,
And I think the residents deserve to see the results.
Right.
And we should consider those, as should the city commission, when they're making a decision. And that brings up my next question, if you all agree with that, is how do we understand what the electeds are looking for?
You mean the ones we don't know who they are yet? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, incumbents and candidates. I mean, I know how I'm doing it, I'm talking to each one of them individually, but
Right.
how are you guys gonna gather that information?
Well, I think at the end of the day,
Go ahead. Fran.
yeah, at the end of the day, they have the final choice and selection on whoever they decide. I think this process is really one of working from a granular level up to them so that they can understand what the community, because they represent all of us, right? And so, I really think, and I appreciate that opinion, and I think it's the right thing to do as individuals. We can certainly ask them, but they work for us, and then at the end of the day, they have the final decision. So if they disagree with whatever we've come up with, or even disagree with whatever the residents have said they want to see in a city manager, they have the option to disregard it and vote for whomever they decide. So I don't know, and I'm not saying I don't care because I do, because I want it to be something that's going to be accepted. All of the time we'll be spending doing this at the end of the day by the city commission. But, you know, I'm hoping that they will take into consideration all of the work and effort and
Well,
what the community.
Why don't we make
thinks
sure
of
they
this.
all fill out this survey, all the
That's a-
candidates?
That's a good question.
Well, but that's kind of where I'm going with it is. And I don't wanna call it a revolving door, but we've had a tough time keeping city manager. And I'm not quite sure what the disconnect has been. But I would wanna hopefully have the community, the elected on the same page so that everybody's rowing in the same direction to the extent that we can. I mean,
The only way to do that is through a workshop between the committee and the commissioners. But I would think that the commissioner would want us to independently from them come up with the 3 or the 5 names that we are going to present to them with an explanation from the chair as to why we made those choices. That's the way I'm used to seeing these type of things work. When we had the city attorney, that's the process we used. And you know, and like Bernadette says, if they don't like our choices, they have the ultimate power to choose whoever they wish. But it's once we take the community input, all of our input, to narrow down that number, I don't know how many they're gonna give us, and present that to the commissioner and it's in their hands.
No, I appreciate the thoughts on though, all, you know, knowing what the elected officials, after November 5th are going to be looking for and what would be ideal for everyone involved with regards to, obviously, we want someone to stay for a while. So I do take that point. I guess what I'm curious, in this part of the discussion is, Jerome, do we have, looking ahead at our timeline, I just wanna clarify, do we have a joint meeting with, commission?
We do not have one on the timeline for the schedule, but
Okay.
keep in mind that timeline was always meant to be fluid.
Sure, yeah,
We could always add to it or take from it if we need to.
gotcha, okay. So having said that, let's maybe work back first as far as community engagement and the survey as a primary tool. And like you said, we wanna use the results. So what is our suggested deadline, for closing the survey? So that we actually are taking data and applying it to our selection process as we narrow down candidates.
If we can start it on Monday. I mean, don't really want a survey to be out there too long because it becomes an old rag.
If I may,
Yes.
I would recommend that you would want to have all the survey results prior to the interviews, as I think the most useful way you're going to use this information is seeing what the community values and thinks is important and using that to develop interview questions so you can get to the core of that candidate's experience as it relates to what the community has indicated is important to them. So keeping it open, if you want to keep it open all the way up to the interview, but I think at that point, it'll start to lose as much impact.
I would suggest further, you probably want those well before the interviews. And the interviews are currently scheduled for early January. So I'm thinking today's already October 11, through the end of November, perhaps. Keep in mind that currently the timeline allows for the posting to go through, I believe, mid to end of November. I think it was mid-November. Daly's on the phone, we can get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get to.
But that would give you sufficient time to digest the survey input and formulate whatever interview questions you have, as Kristen has just mentioned.
Just going back to Dan's point as a tie-up, I'm wondering, and I like the idea of the candidates, while they're candidates, to have the survey, you know. to have
I
it-
just,
Well.
having, I just
let
think
me get
candidates
that
will
out.
say
No,
things that.
but that's the beauty of this. That's the beauty of it, because if we can capture what they're saying now as this is what, you know, we think we'd like to see in a city manager.
Right.
I think, you know, this is the time to do it. And so you're probably, and your organization is probably the best one that's in the position to try to, you know, solicit those answers from the candidates.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
wish I'd asked, did you ask that question at all when you did your forum?
No, I tried to stay away from that.
Yeah.
And then just
We-
I asked
as,
that privately though.
We didn't ask it either.
yeah, but I think getting them to, you know, fill out these surveys would be a good idea. And then one final thing, I'm wondering if, forgot what I was gonna say. This is terrible, this old age,
We're
thing.
just saying-
This old age thing.
Well, don't even start.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Rose.
Well, the,
Yeah, I'll think of it.
Well, the city staff, the team, the team members, well, they have a survey to fill out. I mean, there's 2,000 people that this person's gonna be them.
Yay.
Are they gonna
Yeah.
be asked something?
So we did do one for the Reimagining City Hall. We did do a survey for employees separately from the one that went out to the public.
So that would be good, I think, for this, because they're the ones that are gonna benefit
Yeah.
or suffer.
Wanna hear what they say.
Yeah, that's a good point. And my point was, what I was gonna say was, I don't think, Fort Lauderdale's actually been doing so bad with keeping managers, just knowing what happens with managers and how they cycle out. We've actually been pretty good, believe it or not. Which may not seem to be the case, but we really had good runs with, you know, some
The only
managers
issue is-
who, in my opinion, probably stayed longer
I-
than they should have.
Yeah, cause I mean, it's like every 2 years, it seems like, and you lose, you know, continuity with, you know, with city leaders, with your team, with stuff gets missed.
That's what happens.
You know, that's what we,
I-
you know, I've seen it happening now.
Yeah, there's one city we represent, it's on its fourth manager in less than 2 years.
Oh my.
So, who knows what's going on? They, you know, it's very, that's not good.
Terrible, it's not good at all.
5 bosses that you can't.
Try 60.
Can I please?
Yeah, Earl. go
So I want to just ask you about the 3 questions. So if you all read the questions yourselves, just look at them. And you're on the other end and you're on the computer and number 5. Pick 3.
Mhm.
So let's say that we get at the end of this survey. And you're gonna have, now, hopefully people fill in other, because that's important, that's, I'll get to in a second, but. It's pretty difficult to pick 3 of either, all of these 3 questions, because I think we need a city manager that's gonna have to deal with all of them. So to have just on the flip side, well, they all thought this was, I could only pick 3, but really, I mean, number 6, how can you pick 3 out of 10? Pick 3. Which 3 are you gonna pick?
Well, the other way you could do it is with just a ranking system.
Or I'm just saying
Which
it's.
takes more time.
My point though is I think in the end, you know, is there other questions that maybe people need to ask? Is there something else? Now I like that there's others, they could fill things in. What I'm just saying is at the end, we're gonna have this summary of the top 3 that people chose out of these and.
But it's a different, most likely a different top 3 from each of us.
Right, but in the end, you'll end up with all of them, won't you?
Yes, you
So
will.
But
what is-
waited,
Would be a forced waiting, yeah.
yeah, but waited.
Okay, but in the end, I'm gonna vote these 3, you're gonna vote these 3, and you could even be
So
all
how
the
would
same.
you do it differently?
I don't know, I'm struggling with that, but I'm just saying is in the end, what are you gonna get back?
You could, I think, Dan that said they could be ranked. I don't know how hard that is to
It's not.
tabulate.
It's not because the computer does it.
Well, we know that people think infrastructure is important. And that's one of the top 3 consistently, that's.
And if I can just chime in on the purpose of having someone choose 3, it gives us a statistical idea of what the majority, like what the most important thing
Absolutely.
the public sees as an immediate priority. So that's why it's listed that way. But we could also do it as a ranking if that was something you wanted to do.
Is that difficult for you guys to do the ranking?
Change your words and put a little Y.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps the ranking would address some of your concern. If we did the ranking, would they rank all of them?
Yes,
Okay.
they would rank all of them.
Or would they just stop? Like, this seems too difficult.
It's only 7 questions and then an 8, you know, we do wanna keep it as short as possible.
Absolutely,
Because
yeah.
you want people to fill the whole thing out, because if they fill it out and then they don't submit at the end, then you don't get any of the information. But a ranking is possible, we could do that if that's what you wanted.
I mean, I guess, I appreciate your thought, Earl. I think that, you know, perhaps for. Is it all of these though that we need to rank, or is it maybe just particularly, say, for example, question 6?
4, 5, 6.
Or, you know,
Like, how do you pick a number 7? You know, the 3, I think. This guy has to do all of this, or he won't be successful, he has to be able to be, just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess I can pick the top 3, but in the end, this guy has to do all of this. You can't just pick the top 3 that I want here. He's gonna be dealing with sea level, homelessness, affordable housing, public safety. It's all of them.
It's all
You
of
know,
them.
you see my point, so I'm struggling now.
Yes.
Number 8 is the best because now it's, what do I want? What am I missing? What's happened to me in my world that I can convey that's important to me? But I just struggle with these right here because I, you know,
They need all of them, but
in the end, does it really matter what the, you know?
For 7, I
But
understand.
what's gonna happen? I know it's happened with me, I have before me their resume. And now I'm sitting here and I'm listening to what you're asking, I'm listening to what you're asking, I'm asking, and I'll compare what is being said to what is being written. And also use what the community and the employees said, what is important to them. Those are the three things that I look at when I make my decision, it's based on those 3 things.
All right, so I think what I'm hearing, Ashley, for sake of simplicity, is let's go ahead and do the ranking.
Okay.
Option-
Ranking instead for 5, 6, and 7.
For 5, 6, and 7. And that would allow them, if their other answer is their number 1, they can rank that first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay. No. That's a great addition, Earl. Okay. I think then, so we've talked about the staff, the survey for the community. Talked about getting those results back, how it's gonna be distributed. And we've talked about the fact that you are gonna do city staff survey, or are you, or?
Let me give you a little opposing view to that. Yes, it would be interesting to know what city staff is looking for, but then you get into the potential ethical issues of because we're in the public sector, employees looking to select their next boss. And I don't know that a lot of people want to do that.
And I guess, would there be an aspect of it where you could make it kind of similar to the community, where it's just very broad?
As long as it's anonymous. you know.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
you
I think
know,
it's
so,
gotta be
yeah.
for
They
them.
have to be.
But could they identify areas where they all feel like they're having some concerns? So
I'm
not
sorry, I
picking
didn't
their,
hear.
they're not picking the candidates, but they're giving feedback where we feel like these seem to be areas that we're struggling with. This is area that we need help in, something like that. So it's you know, ultimately when the candidate gets selected, he has some like, oh, I see, they're all, this seems to be a problem, oh, this seems to be a problem, you know what I mean? So it's not really in the selection process, it's just kind of putting this whole package together where here's what the community is prioritizing. Here's what the city workers are struggling with a little bit, and then he puts it together and sees how he can work it out. So I don't know if that's after the candidate is selected, because it really doesn't matter, does it?
No, it would have to be before.
It has to be before? To just,
But that's what you're looking to do with the community survey as well.
Yeah, so with staff, I'm thinking, aren't we going to have, like the step, like if I'm in public works, or if I'm in code enforcement, or if I'm in, you know, HR, I'm going to weight those areas as the need for management focus, which probably brings money, which probably brings more, you know, resources. I'm wondering, I mean, don't we want to know where I understand you want, and I get that we would want it to be anonymous, obviously. Because it will be a public document and all of that, but wouldn't we want to know at least the departments that are
It's up to you,
responding?
if you wanna know
So
that,
that-
include that in your decision-making process.
So because for instance, if this goes to the police department and, you know, 90% of the police are saying X, because the union said, make sure you fill this survey out. You know, wouldn't we wanna know that so that we can know how to weight it?
The other danger there is that you could end up with specific groups of people, whether they be certain union folks or others with personal grievances, et cetera, looking to resolve those issues.
So for that reason, I don't know that, I mean, maybe there's a different type of survey they can be done,
Yeah, I
but
don't
maybe
think it'll
not
be
this.
this. I think.
Right.
Yeah, it would have
Yeah.
to, I guess it would be different, and I guess, you know, we don't want it really to be upward feedback, like I know that you guys, you know, can manage that yourselves, and I mean, I know you're talking about doing exit interviews in the future. And I don't think we want it to be like, you know, upward feedback on the past city manager or on any of the current acting assistant city managers. I think we wanna avoid that. I think it has to be broader about, you know, the culture, the vision, the goals, is the city innovative enough? Is it, you know, I think it has to kind of have that kind of focus, or else I do think you run into it just being people anonymously kind of airing their grievances. I mean, which I think is okay a little bit, but I just don't think we want it to turn into that, because we're looking for a vision. And the one thing I did notice about the responses from the staff on the Reimagining City Hall survey, I thought they were actually very interesting. And I noticed that they actually participated pretty heavily and had some really interesting ideas that the public did not come up with. So that was just one thing and an aspect of this. I mean, I guess it's kind of, I'm gonna say though, it's probably really up to HR and your city colleagues whether you want to go ahead with something like that, because I think our results we're going to use the results from community survey. And I guess on Dan's point about how does this committee address and understand the desires of the elected officials, and I mean, some of them will probably be people who appointed us. And I do think that that's an important question too, that this committee should, as an adjunct to your work, you know, at home and then also in person here, I do think it makes sense for you all to talk to the elected officials after November 5th, to get a feel for their priorities, what their vision is, how, you know, they intend to work with city manager. I just think that will increase your breadth of knowledge as we go into the selection process. So I just think that's important. As individuals, we know, you know, we know everyone who's a candidate. And I mean, any issues with that, Jerome?
No, I do want to remind you though, and we've got Daly on the line here, but
Yeah.
she can provide us whatever information she can or is willing to with regards to the meetings she had with all of the department heads already. Keep in mind, she's already met
Yes.
with all of the department heads
Yeah,
to get their input.
go that route.
Yeah,
I like
that might
that
be
better.
better.
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah. I mean, certainly any, though, committee member, you know, if you wish to talk to one of the elected officials, I mean, I would suggest doing it after November 5th.
Yes. Except for one.
Yeah, but
So-
not to let it sway.
Yeah, but not to
But-
sway, but
but-
maybe just to increase your understanding of how, you know, they have been, perhaps they will be an incumbent, how they have been working with city managers. I think we've heard some of that from Susan Grant about that extreme time commitment. 75% of the time, responding to elected officials, and also think about, what their expectation is. I don't think it's any harm. So having said that, I think,
Yes, maybe, you know, there should be like 2 or 3 people appointed to do that, not just, you know, there's 7 of us kind of wandering around the halls. Yeah.
I think with the sunshine laws, I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I think,
You would have to note, place notice
Yeah.
in order for 3 people from this committee to meet with anybody.
Yeah.
well,
To meet, period.
it's more than one person, so I think what you propose is legally correct, which would
Yeah.
be, if we wanted to ask, we will. I probably won't at all.
Oh, I will.
So, and you should, and I would still love to see that survey that the candidates would fill out.
Yeah.
But I,
Yeah.
you know, I think if you
Yeah.
want to, you do.
If you
But,
want to
know,
individually, obviously, like this, we should be talking to, we're allowed to talk to the community.
Yeah,
We're not allowed to talk to each other, and we're not, you know,
and I'm not allowed to take you with me and talk to
yeah,
someone.
to.
Well, keep in mind
That's a-
too, if you
that's a
meet with the
collective-
Yeah,
individual
that's true.
commissioners, you're not allowed to share with the commissioners what you learned from the other.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
okay, very good reminder.
But then can you
Okay.
bring all that information back to here?
Yes.
Yes?
You can.
I want to see Jerome go like this. I don't know. I don't know.
Anything that you're doing here in the public meeting is fine, so you're fine with, you
I
can.
think, yeah, in a
You can,
public meeting,
yeah.
and what I would advise though is that you not communicate which commissioner said what. This is just what you've collected from the
Okay.
commission members.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of this as a way of making yourself a more effective committee member.
Mhm.
And you're taking it in from your meetings, and I've already had a discussion with an elected official, specifically in this regard, but it was a, you know, private meeting, and it informs, it just adds to my body of information of when, as we approach this time where we're going to be narrowing down the candidates and then doing the interviews. So, Dan, does that address, I think, some of what you brought?
Circularly, yes.
Okay. Probably too much. So, I think that we're ready to move on unless the committee has any other comments for Ashley.
Let me ask you this for logistics purposes, how would you like to review the data or information collected from the surveys? Because now it almost seems like you need another meeting scheduled at some point in December. And of course, that's always difficult with the holidays and all that, but if you want to review all that information prior to the interviews, I'm not sure, do you want to do it in a meeting or do you want to do it electronically, or how would you want to do that?
Can it be summarized and then sent to us during the holidays?
Could do.
We can all read it.
I agree with that. I don't think we need to really discuss it. I think
Right.
they are what they are.
Right.
Distribute it, and then that's something we can have when we do actually go to the commissions.
And we do not have a meeting in November, right?
Not at the moment.
Good.
It's December.
Yeah, we tried to stay away from that for you.
Um,
Need to, we will.
No,
Okay.
let's not do that.
okay, no, that's a useful discussion. So, any further questions from Ashley or city staff on?
I just want to make sure that with these changes I'll make, we'll go ahead and publish this, and then any changes that you all want made after that, we can add and change and.
We can make suggestions real time via email to Jerome,
Yes,
and then he'll forward to you.
yes.
And if we can also have a few announcements made at the Monday State of the City, that would be good, like in the
Sure.
beginning and, you know, before the mayor speaks or something like that.
I will, we can definitely do that at the reception. there is probably not an appropriate place during this speech to do that, but I might be able to do it prior to the start of the speech, as everyone's kind of filtering in and starting their.
So that's our goal, is to have this all.
Yes, I'm gonna leave here, work on making sure that this looks the way you want it to look, and then we will start the outreach and get printed copies ready for Monday, and we'll announce it at the various events and have neighbor support team out there helping to get people to take the survey.
And one last thing,
Sure.
the map, you'll have a map with the printed out copies so that people can see where they live in case they have.
Neighborhood support.
Yeah. Oh,
I took the site down. City manager site. Can you put it back up for a second? Please. Just scroll down a little bit. Keep going. Yeah, one of the frustrating things that our members, and it may be under the more, I don't know, have is when they're into a subject matter and there's no place for them to ask questions, call some contact information and email. Maybe we can put the chair's name there, her phone number, or just something so that there's a relief valve for somebody to not get frustrated.
Sure, yeah, I believe on the Reimagining City Hall page, we had the contact information for Structural Innovation, who was running that. We can put HR contact
Yeah,
information.
that'd be great.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and if they want, I guess one thing, if there's a way, I know it would be in any minutes that are linked, but I do think some people are gonna want to know, well, who are these people that are on the committee? So if there's a way we can, if it's not straight on the face of the page, maybe that you can link us to, I know that various advisory committees have like, your own little space.
All of them do.
Yeah, so I think if you could link so that at least they do know who we are. Okay. I'll go work on this. Thank you so
Have
much.
it done by tomorrow, please.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have it
That was
done by
great.
Monday, one way or the other, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great
Good job.
work.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Sorry for the delay.
No, that's fine.
And. All right, well, thank you committee for all those comments. I think now we're gonna move on to item 5, which is the presentation from Dele. Hope I said that right, Dele Loman. Now working for MGT, formerly WHR. So, you have the floor. I guess we're gonna be talking about the draft brochure.
Yes, and if you would prefer, I can address a couple of the things that came up in your previous agenda item that were relevant to this, and then we can circle back to the brochure unless you'd prefer me to do that in a different order.
Sure, let's go ahead with the items that are relevant to just the discussion that just finished.
Okay, great. So let's see, we talked about just broadly on the survey. The question, I'm just reading through my notes. The note came up about being able to use the feedback for interview questions, which is 100% one of the ways that we use that kind of feedback. We can also use it for evaluation criteria for the interview process. As well as compiling feedback that will be provided to the incumbent that ends up being hired. And so they walk in the door with some intelligence and understanding directly from the community. And it's a way to give kind of an early win and shorten the learning curve when they come into the door. So there are a number of different uses for that kind of survey. You also brought up the possibility of an employee survey, and that is something that we've done many times. It is framed in such a way that it asks for broad input and feedback and that sort of thing. So if that were something that you decided to do, we could assist with that, or you could proceed in the way that you already have. As someone noted, that I did have the opportunity to speak with the leadership in the organization and get a lot of feedback that obviously didn't include the rank and file, but got a lot of feedback that you see reflected in the brochure, and that will be reflected in my screening questions and any recommended questions that I provide to you for the interview process. I also sent out an invitation to all of the sitting city commissioners to meet with me in the same manner as I did with the leadership team. Several of them did take me up on that offer, and some of that feedback is reflected in the brochure. There were a couple of others who replied later on in the process, and that unfortunately got disrupted by Hurricane Helene up near me, and have not yet rescheduled those, but they did ask to have a conversation with me as well. So if you felt that that was adequate, you wouldn't need to add on to it, but there also could be value in you all hearing directly from the city commissioners yourselves without their feedback having been filtered through me. So I just wanted to let you know that they have been invited to weigh in on that process.
What question for?
Yes, go ahead, Brady.
So Dele, I'm wondering, and thank you for sharing what you just shared, and to the extent, and I'm not asking for the specific commissioners that you spoke with, but I would like to know what was added to the brochure that you thought reflected the sentiments of some of the commissioners that you have, so that we are at least aware of that.
Sure. I'd have to go back to my notes to check that. It really lined up with what I heard from the leadership team. It really didn't conflict. So I was looking for things that may not have come up when I had conversations with members of the leadership team. And I'm happy to go back to my notes and, kind of give highlights from some of that feedback. But I will tell you now that there was not anything that I heard that really conflicted. I did hear from one the thought that the candidate would likely need to be someone who is already familiar with Florida laws and that sort of thing. That was probably the only thing that I did not hear expressed in the other conversations that I had.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. No, I appreciate that update, Dele, and any questions from committee, or should we dive into the brochure?
Die.
Okay. Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and look at the revised brochure. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to thank the insert of some of the information that I requested on the business community.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah, I think before you go, I mean, I do think I could see where our comments were addressed in various sections, and I know you maintained some of the basis of it. But I do appreciate like the changes that were made. And I guess, Dele, if you want to just talk about the brochure in general, I guess I'm very curious too, though, I'm getting anxious that we go live, that the job is posted, and I guess I'm very interested in the timing for that.
Yes, I can start with that. We are set to open the position this coming Monday. And that will include a shorter job announcement. So this is the promotional sort of marketing tool that we use in direct outreach. We also will post this on our website, of course, and post it on our LinkedIn and use it for all sorts of promotional and outreach activities. But for the advertising list that you all approved that includes the International City County Management Association, Florida League of Cities, and those websites, we have to provide them a shorter blurb and summary of the position. That has already been completed, and it reflects information that is in here, but it is almost entirely dedicated to the role. There's a little bit of information about the community that is included in there, but because it is such a much shorter place to talk about it, all of it is primarily dedicated to the role. And so that is ready to go. It will go live on Monday. And then we'll be able to quickly follow with the brochure once we incorporate whatever changes need to be made.
And the brochure itself, obviously will be a PDF. So it's just an electronic PDF document that expands on the actual shorter job description listing that you normally have.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And then let's see, if we could just confirm then the deadline for applicants.
The position will be open from October 14th, this coming Monday, until November 15th. So it's a little bit over 30 days, and we wanted to make sure that there was adequate time after the election for any applicants to be able to see who their potential new bosses would be when applying, because obviously that's something that people will take into consideration, how much change there may have been in the sort. So we believe that closing it on the 15th will give enough time for that to happen and for people to get their application materials in.
Okay. Roosevelt.
Ms. Loman, I think when we spoke last, I requested that there be enough time built in so that we are not able to come up with the designated number of prospects, suspects maybe. Out of what you sent to us the first time, there will be time for you to go back out to seek additional ones. Do you have that timeline built in?
Not formally. I think that might be something you would need to play by ear. What we can do is provide updates, and that's something that I typically will do for clients, is to provide updates on a bi-weekly or sometimes weekly basis to advise you of the number of applicants. And if we have a concern about the quality of the pool in terms of their alignment with the qualifications that you all are seeking, then I would also bring that to your attention in enough time to revisit our outreach strategy.
I guess so. Daily, so starting Monday the 14th. I know last meeting we discussed your actual solicitation efforts, which will be to, there may be very good potential targets that your job will be to actually reach out to.
Yes.
And I guess, and reaching out to them, you'll be encouraging them to apply.
Mhm.
So that officially will start as well next week on Monday.
Correct.
Okay. So there'll be the active solicitation, and then there will be the actual posting that will be everywhere, pretty much.
Correct. And it's
Sorry, is 30 days enough time? I know we had originally planned for 45 days for the job to be open.
we believe so. In a situation or in recruitments in Florida, it is likely that you're going to end up getting a lot of strong candidates towards the end, however long it's open, simply because of the sunshine laws. And, you know, people don't necessarily want their names out there for a very long time in some cases. So it is likely that you'll get a lot of people who are really strong contenders towards the end, and that's not necessarily going to change whether it's 30 days or 45 days. What I was also going to share is that our firm was just at the ICMA annual conference, and because we are leading the search for the new executive director of ICMA, we were able to have a pretty prominent placement there in the exhibit hall and promote the fact that we are doing this search, even though it was not open yet. And so we've already been able to start drumming up interested candidates, even though it's not already open. So we're starting a little bit ahead of the game as well.
Is there ever a situation where when we get to, I guess it's November 15th, where we extend the deadline, or is that really out of respect to all involved set in stone?
That has happened. It's not common. Certainly not for a position like this would we expect it. This is a very high profile position in a very well-known community. It is going to be attractive to a lot of qualified candidates. And so I don't anticipate that. But if that were to happen, then you certainly can. You certainly can do that. Obviously, it would delay the overall timeline, which would then end up pushing back even further, you know, how long it would take to get somebody into the seat. So you're not going to want to, you know, just do that willy-nilly, but you certainly do have the option to do that if the need arises.
Madam Chair.
Roosevelt, yes.
What would be a reason to extend?
For me, the only reason I can think to extend would be if we felt we didn't have a sufficient pool of candidates.
Then you gotta go back out. You gotta go the whole process.
Search. I will say that this is a unique time where anybody that's really good is probably working like hell to solve their issues throughout Florida right now, right?
Yeah.
It's in that position. And so a lot of those dynamics just changed in the last week. You know, luckily if you're on the East Coast, you know, north or south, you're probably okay. But if you're in the middle or on the West Coast, whatever it is, right now, guess what you're doing? You're not looking for a job, trying to solve what you have going there right now. So I think we should still just be open to that, see how
Well,
many
it's not, the
applicants we
dates aren't
get.
published on here, are they? The dates are not in the brochure that
But I do think that your posting will give them a deadline, right, Delaine?
Correct.
Yeah, they would have to give the November 15 deadline.
Correct.
But yeah, I do
I think
agree
we
with
should
what
be
you're saying.
Open to it, let's
Yeah.
just see how it plays out, because the dynamics changed right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Let me-
it's a
let
good
me-
point.
let me
No, it's a
ask-
very good point, yeah.
Let me ask that, if we did not come up with enough qualified people to recommend to the city, would we have to do the full process over again in order to be fair to any? I mean, if you say extend for 10 days and there's 5 more people out there would like to be a part, they don't get the same opportunity as the one that's already applied. Help me.
Well, let me make sure I understand your question first. Would we need to redo the entire recruitment?
Yes.
The answer is no. No,
Where-
you
where
could
would
just
we start?
extend. You could just extend the current posting and the current brochure with notifications out as Dealey would do the outreach to all the organizations and the posting sites that the deadline has been extended to date certain. But you don't need to redo all the materials and.
No,
requirements and all
not
that.
material, but I'm looking at right now, there's about 32 days that this listing is gonna be up. And if we extend because we didn't find enough candidates to recommend to the commission to get additional people, I don't think you would say we're gonna extend for 10 days. But I don't think that's ample time.
No, we would, the committee would obviously have some input as to how much longer you think we need to extend. Obviously, we'd take Daley's professional experience into consideration as well. But let me remind the group what happened with the city attorney search. We ran a search. We had, 12 candidates or so? The committee felt we needed more and a more diverse group of people. So we went back out a second time with a search firm. And then we ended up really with the few very same candidates that we had before at the very top of the list. So I'm saying we don't need a ton of candidates. You need a few good quality
I
candidates
agree.
that you can select or recommend to the commission.
Okay. Mary.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking about what Earl said. I mean, the entire west coast of Florida up to Big Bend has been ruined. I have no idea who, or if there are any potential candidates over there, but they're not gonna be thinking about this. It's a little bit.
Get the hell out of here.
This is a lot.
I think anybody that's any good wouldn't be thinking about doing anything like that. I don't know. It is, I didn't really think about that, but that is,
But I think
It's
just
a
let's
national
plays out,
search.
but just keep an
Okay.
open mind that,
It's
you
a
know, you start to see
national
like,
search, right?
people, and some people may even reach out and say, look, it's still a great person here, but I gotta clean up this before I can really walk away. Anybody that has a sense of responsibility is not gonna.
yeah,
you know.
anybody that's good. you know, like-
Yeah.
But it's a national search, so you're not limited to what's going on the west coast, or even on the east
I know.
coast around the Orlando area.
I know, but we have kind of heard that people are more interested in somebody, a candidate that has a knowledge of Florida law might be a little more desirable. I'm just,
Yeah, but
Well,
we raise people here, we send them all over the nation, and we can always have them to come back. You know, this is the growing ground for politicians and government officials.
I understand that. I understand that. I just think we have to realize that we might be eliminating the whole big swath of our state.
And we would be, I think so.
I think we're gonna be fine, y'all.
Me too, especially the national.
I guess I just feel so bad when I see
Let's just see how it plays out.
Yeah.
We can see how it goes.
Okay.
I guess on that note, with regards to the committee knowing how it's going, you know, it opens Monday and then closes on November 15. I guess what is the allowable communication to us, you know, will be, you know, as far as how many applicants have.
We can send out regular updates as to the number of candidates
Okay.
and Daley can let us know that. We
Okay.
can send them out to you. You just can't respond back and forth to each
Right.
other about,
Okay, okay.
Right.
but we can just keep you
You can
updated
keep us
from HR.
updated as to
As
how
to the
it's
number of
going.
candidates. Now, as Daley has pointed out, though, keep in mind that typically the greater number of candidates won't come in until the last couple weeks of the job posting.
Okay.
So, you know, just managing expectations here, don't expect to see a lot within the first few weeks of the posting.
And will we receive the resumes in advance?
In advance of your interviews, yes.
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 And I guess, Dele, how many, I mean, I guess just from your experience, how many candidates do you think, applications do you think we'll get about?
That's difficult to predict. It has ranged. I think that you're going to get a strong response to this one. I think that's probably as much as I'm comfortable pontificating, but I believe you're going to get a strong response. It really does vary. I mean, you know, I was doing this all through the pandemic, and we had some where it seemed anemic, and you really did have to just go with the small handful of highly qualified candidates, and others where it was a raft of responses. So it can vary, but as someone just said, you really need, you know, you want at least 5 to 7 really strong candidates to choose from. And as long as you have that, then you're going to be in great shape.
Okay. All right, no, that sounds good. Any other comments on the brochure or questions for Daley with regards to the brochure? Or, yes,
I just had two quick comments on the brochure.
Yeah.
One was, I tried to look back at my notes and I thought that we were going to give a range for the salary. I didn't know that we were starting out. at
If I may,
notes
staff
on
had
that?
several edits as well that I've already collected and relayed over to Daley. But rather than have her redo the entire brochure and send it out to you, we wanted to collect any and all edits now and have her make one set of changes. And that was one of them, that the range would be in the 300s. Yes. I can tell you some of the other changes that staff pointed out, and staff includes Susan, Laura, Kristen, me, and whoever else looked at it. With the number of largest employers, it was recommended we include Broward College and Kemet Corporation. Including reference to the Inter Miami and the Panthers, and I think that came up from somebody else here. And the fact that we do have professional sports as a drawing card. We did note that we don't believe that police and fire report directly to the city manager via statute. So we're just gonna have to Daley eliminate the phrase via statute. But practically speaking, yes, they do report directly to the city manager. Regarding union negotiations, we wanted to rephrase that altogether because all the union contracts are currently settled. We don't have to worry about that. Now, we may be reopening with the Federation, the FOPE, and the Teamsters next year. It just depends on what happens with their reelection, because as you know, with recent legislation, they have had to recertify their units. And historically, neither one of those units have had sufficient number of dues paying members that may qualify under the new statute. So they're going through that election process again, both of the units. And we will know probably before the end of the year as to whether we will have those two units even represented in the city.
So why not just leave it as it is?
That's why we're gonna rephrase it. We may be reopening with the Federation and Teamsters. But the FOP and the IAFF fire and police contracts will not reopen until 2026. So that's how we're gonna rephrase that whole section. We've got it already drafted and sent it in. And then finally, it was that range, rather than expect to start at 300,000, in the range of 300,000.
Okay, just one other thing, and I'm just gonna mention it, and I want you folks to see if you agree or disagree. So on page 4, it talks about the city manager oversees 10 departments with the support of 4 assistant city managers. And that just recently got changed. And what I'm suggesting is we put in there that it's currently configured 10 departments with this. I want somebody to come in here and assess this, take a look, and put their own footprint on it. If it's perfect the way it is, then leave it, but right now, this is the way it's configured. There may be other optimal ways that this is done, you know, from other experience, from evaluating it. And if you don't think it's necessary to add that in, or you think it's fine the way it is, then that would be.
So you wanna change wording?
Only that it says that it's currently
It's
configured
currently configured this way.
to this,
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
which implies that it could be changed. I want somebody to take a holistic look at this, see where they can make efficiencies or changes, whatever. So I agree with that.
But if it says currently configured,
Yes,
that leaves room for change.
that's my thought,
Yeah.
is to imply that.
So, I mean, to me, I'm satisfied with the word.
You like that, you're okay with
Yeah,
that?
but I only meant second grade.
No.
Well, okay, no, I appreciate that. I guess I do like the addition and I feel it plays into the meeting, the last meeting when we had Susan Grant here, and she did emphasize that it would be up to the the new city manager to decide how the city manager's office is structured. So I do feel this, your addition just emphasizes that aspect. And I think it's just a small wording, so.
Okay.
Any other comments? I think it looks great. I think, yeah, I like adding about a professional sports team. We've got the Stanley Cup sitting here, if that's gonna sway anyone.
Bring it.
And,
Started rusted out, now they head out there in the salt water.
yeah,
Worse than that.
yeah. Okay, so no more comments on the brochure. I think the only thing we didn't loop back to briefly, just looking back at the timeline is I did just want to explore real quick what Bernadette brought up, and I think, Dan, you were also in the past involved about, I'm just curious about how this would work if we actually had candidates and we actually had the outreach meeting as you described. I guess I'm new to the idea of actually having the candidates in that kind of a situation, and I guess just open to more thoughts on that. And Jerome and your team, if you've ever done that before, or and how that works with the public.
I'll let Kristen speak first, but I can tell you what my experience has been at other cities. Yeah.
So I've been involved with a couple charter officer recruitments. We never did any specific events where, you know, the residents just come and kind of mingle or interact. It's more that their interviews are public meetings. So we would basically do kind of before the meeting, like a meet and greet, and then into the interviews. As an option, if you don't want to do an entirely separate event. But I would also, you know, I'll defer to Jerome and also what Daley's experience has been.
That seems great, where it's all
Yeah.
public, open to the public process of what the commissioners are doing. That's the best way to go, I like it. But what's interesting is, if I have a person who's currently employed someplace, you know, they're down here on TV doing interviews, is
Well,
that,
that's how it is. The interviews
That's-
are
it is
public.
what it
Yeah,
is.
they're public meetings no matter
that's a
what.
tough situation.
They're awkward. I'm not gonna lie.
That is how it is.
But also, you know, if you do have, you know, national candidates, are you gonna be bringing them down here multiple times, right? So if you do separate events, that can be more difficult. These are very busy people, right? And if they have to fly in and get hotels, that's also additional cost. Whereas if you had something, just maybe a reception ahead of the interviews or something like that as an option. But Jerome, what about at your cities?
Well, in one city, there was the simple meet and greet. They were advertised in public meetings, when members of the public could come in, meet and speak with in various group settings, almost like a cocktail party without the cocktails. With the 3 or 4 candidates, and then they all provided feedback to the commission members afterwards, either via email, telephone, communications, whatever have you. However they felt comfortable doing that. In another city, we actually had the top 3 candidates give presentations. They were limited to a 5-minute presentation in a public meeting. It was at a city commission meeting, where all the members of the public could hear what the candidate had to say about themselves, their qualifications, et cetera, what their thoughts about the city was. And then they were provided forms that they could, the attendees were provided forms that they could fill out and submit or leave with the city clerk at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Looks like a mini forum.
We had, then we had a different process with the police search that was very interesting. That we were over at the Del Mar Hotel, and we had 3 different rooms or 4 different rooms. And a big search committee, and the candidates rotated from one room to the other. And had interviews there, but they were open as well.
They're also open with the public, just.
Oh, they could sit on the outside and listen to everything that was being said. It was bizarre.
And they're always
I don't know.
open, but
Yeah.
what I'm describing, and I don't know whether it was, you know, a week or 2 or even the same day, I just don't remember at this point, but I do remember that the candidates were out, and I think it was on the lawn here at the city, the city hall. And they were moving around with the residents, and the residents could go up and
Remember
talk to
that.
them. Yeah, it's been a minute,
Were
you
you?
know,
I know.
it's
Were
been a
you?
little while.
I was on the
and-
search committee,
Yeah, and
I'm a little foggy.
yeah, and it wasn't the last search committee.
No, it was Lee's.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what you're
so,
talking
I
about.
think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
and
guy
they-
from Coral Springs.
And they were out and residents were
I
talking
have a
and
vague memory.
and
of this.
and it was very nice. It wasn't that wasn't publicized or anything. Meaning that was publicized, but it wasn't, the cameras weren't there, or it wasn't a part of the public meeting. It was just allowing the residents to. Now, it could have been, just for cost reasons, and this would make sense. It could have been the same day as the interview. So that the residents could have then folded inside of the chambers and said whatever they thought. It could have been the same day, I just don't remember, but I do remember the forum that allowed the residents the opportunity to come, and I thought that was nice, and I think this has been years ago, like I said, I think my neighborhood association people really appreciated being able to have some interaction with the candidates prior to. So.
2008 or something.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
it was a
long time
while
ago.
ago, it was a while ago, yeah.
I was younger then.
Perhaps we can hear what Bailey's experiences have been.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
would suggest?
Dylan, do you wanna weigh in on this topic too? Love to
Sure.
hear what your experience is.
Sure. And this is not uncommon at all, especially in communities that are highly engaged, or in communities where there's a high level of transparency legally, and that applies, both of those apply to Fort Lauderdale. And if I recall, I think we did that when I was still in Broward and we were looking for a new county administrator. We had a meet and greet that all the employees got to attend with the finalists. So, and I facilitated these in a number of different communities as part of the search process. Usually it is combined with the on-site finalist interviews, often the evening before, a day of interviews the next day. And it has been similar to what Jerome described, where it was sort of a cocktail type setup without any cocktails, obviously, and where it was sort of just meet and greet, and the candidates were in different parts, and you could sort of circle around informally and talk to people and ask questions. I have facilitated a much more formal setup where each of them made an introduction of themselves and answered questions. And during the pandemic, when we couldn't have these in person, we facilitated a full online town hall for a city manager search, where the public got to provide questions and we facilitated that process. So there are any number of ways, but this is definitely something that has been done, and that we can support you all in, however you choose to configure it.
Yeah, I think I do like the idea of piggybacking on some of these experiences that you've all had in the past. And I'm just wondering, how many candidates are we at that point? Because I guess on January 9, it does, at the moment, we are scheduled to meet to interview the candidates. And then the city commission interviews would be February 4. So would this be the prior to the commission interviews, or are we going to do it as early as the shortlist that we're interviewing?
It would probably be just prior to interviews with the commission. And
Okay.
so it would include the candidates who are all qualified, all the most competitive candidates, because what you don't want to do is set up expectations for people starting to connect with folks that are not really going to be competitive and get the position. You really only want those individuals who are the strongest contenders. And that's likely going to be a max of 3, maybe 4 if you just have a really, really competitive pool, but 3 at most.
Okay. Okay, so right now, since they're scheduled for the city commission, well, the city commission interviews are scheduled for February 4. I guess we'll find out if, is that pretty much, we can assume that that date is firm, Jerome? Or just,
I wouldn't say that. I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
it's firm relative to their current schedules. However, as I said, if we run into road bumps, such as, do we need to repost? Do we need to extend the posting? Do we need a little bit more time to review candidates, what have you? We can always work around a schedule or the 5 schedules. But at this point, we're just targeting early February.
Okay. So it sounds like, I mean, I think it's a great idea to have that kind of a format, whether it's the evening before, let's say it's February 4th, or the one thing I like about the evening for the community is that that's when people are off of work and they have the opportunity to engage. If we do it like the morning before conference meeting,
I don't think
people are
that's
at
good.
work.
No, I think in the evening,
So,
you're right. The evening's
Yeah,
definitely
it
better.
seems like the evening prior to that commission interview, that first commission interview at conference agenda would be our opportunity to let the public connect with these 3 or 4 candidates. Yes, Mary.
Good, I'm afraid I'll forget to mention it later, it's not quite what we're on here, but at a commission meeting, the our police chief and our fire chief, Golan, came up to me and said, when you get the candidates for the city manager search, we would like to drive them around town so they can see things, so I don't know. if-
I don't think we should, no.
Why?
No.
I don't know, I'm just telling
Yeah, I
you,
don't
they
think we should
offered that.
because I will tell you that, you know, this is what I do for a living, right? And I deal with municipalities all day long. And I think that police and fire departments can be very compelling. And I think that management can be very moved by that. And I think we should have this person as green and our process as competitive and clear and transparent as possible. I don't think that we should engage in that type of an alignment with any department. And so, and particularly not unions. And so, and I'm pro-union, but in this case, I just don't.
Just so they know,
yeah,
you
I
know,
don't
they
think that-
offered,
Yeah, I don't
so
think, yeah,
you
of
can
course
tell-
they
you
would.
can tell them
Of
no.
course
Well,
they
but
would. Yeah, I,
Unions notwithstanding, I still think it's important that somebody give them a tour.
yeah, but
I think that's a good idea.
yeah, well, maybe the management gives them a tour, but I don't think it should be.
Yeah,
the-
no, I don't disagree with you on the union aspect, but to get them a full flavor of the community, the city,
Yeah.
I think it's
The
important.
assistant city manager would do that, and I think that should be a part of the process anyway, when they come for the interviews, and that should be a part of whatever, they get in a van and they go on a tour, and here's our water department,
Yeah.
here's our this, here's our
Yeah.
beach, here's our,
Chamber.
Here's District 1, here's District 2, 3, 4,
Here's this neighborhood, that neighborhood.
Exactly, and that should be a
That's
part
me.
that should be a 2-hour process of
Yeah.
whatever they do, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
the
Okay.
union.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, great points, and I guess, so I think we've provided a lot of feedback. I don't think there's been anything we need to vote on. Or is it better that we vote, or?
No.
No, okay.
You're good. I think we're consensus.
I think we're just providing direction and, yeah, I do not have anything else on the brochure. I appreciate the fact that some people think, it may need to come from Florida. I mean, we'll see what happens. I was looking at different forms of city government last night. We're the 10th largest city in Florida, and I was looking at the 9 others that are larger, and I was surprised that most of them had a strong mayor form
No,
of,
most do not have a strong mayor form of government.
that was what I was
No, that is
seeing.
not, that is.
In
That is
Jacksonville,
absolutely.
in St. Pete,
No, it's
in
very,
Tampa.
very unusual.
It's unusual, okay.
Very few.
Maybe it's wrong. I had just started looking at this to see like, how, you know, if they're type of government aligned in some of the other big cities,
No,
so yeah, we'll leave that
Jackson
for-
is very different, but that has a whole history of, but most cities in our state do not.
Do not.
Most cities in the country do not have strong.
have the strong mayor.
Do
Okay.
not have strong.
Do not
mayor
have strong
form.
mayors, so,
And in fact, only in Miami-Dade County and Jacksonville's structure is different, so I kind of throw that out. But Miami-Dade County is really the only county in the state that has a strong mayor form of government.
I swear it said St. Pete and Tampa did, but we'll.
No, Tampa does not.
Okay, okay. So, all right, so anything else where, I think we're at the end of the agenda. I think we've closed off the brochure. Thank you so much, Dele, and also, HR. Roosevelt, you had a comment?
You know, before we go, for the record, check to see if there's public input.
Oh, yes, yeah, I'm about to get to the public comment section.
Leave them out,
Yeah,
even though they're not here.
Nothing from you, Ben?
yeah. Anyone want to add something for the good of the
Oh,
order?
I take that back. I want to correct myself. My, Tampa does have a strong mayor form of government. Still, it's in the minority for the state.
In general for the state,
For the state,
okay, yeah, no, I
yeah.
feel like, I just find it very interesting to read about this, but
Mayor Cass.
Mayor Castor, exactly.
oh yeah, Jenkins, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Leave or you're gonna die.
Probably doesn't leave.
All right, so seeing that there's no public comment, is there anything else for the good of the order from the committee? Nothing, so I move to adjourn this meeting. It's 2:45.
Great.
All right,
Very
very nice.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you, committee.
Excellent.
Have the best.
You're great.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
All right. If the